This episode of the Better Every Shift podcast is brought to you by Lexipol, the experts in policy, training, wellness support, and grants assistance for first responders and government leaders. To learn more, visit lexipol.com. That's LEXIPOL.com. Now let's get into the show.
Welcome, everybody, to the Better Every Shift podcast. My name is Aaron Zamzow. I'm a firefighter EMT in Madison, Wisconsin. Also, write for Fire Rescue One for the one and only Janelle Fosquet, who is also with us, who is the editor-in-chief of Fire Rescue One. She's also the producer here and the brainchild of all this. How are we doing today? I want to say Captain Janelle, but how are you today, Janelle?
I'm doing great. How are you doing?
I'm good. I'm like a little kid today because I'm getting to talk to my good friend, Chief Kris Kazian, and I always messed up his last name, so I finally nailed it. We've known each other for a long, long time, actually, at least I think 10, 15 years. And I get excited because we talk about wellness, we talk about leadership, and we always go off on these great tangents. And finally, just getting you here on the podcast. How you doing today, Kris? Good to see you, Chief.
Doing great. Nice to see you, Aaron and Janelle, and good to see he's got your name going right now. I think so. That's good, Aaron. You're definitely improving on each and every shift, each and every podcast. You're improving, so it's impressive. I'm happy to see you both, and certainly love the work you guys are doing here on your podcast, and love listening to it every time they post.
We appreciate you being here. By the way, I love the shirt. Very Chief Brunacini-esque.
Yes.
Very fitting, I think, for what we talk about being better, of course.
I was at the gym this morning listening to your latest podcast that just dropped about, I think, 20, something yesterday. I think it dropped, and it got to me thinking about how many times Chief Brunacini is mentioned. I actually went all the way back and listened to one of Mark's. I was inspired by working out with Chief Bayshore. As you could imagine, I didn't take any selfies, but I did listen to one he did with Don Abbott, and just how Chief Brunacini is so intertwined in so many of your guests and influenced so many of the people that have been on your podcast, and how much it's referenced. Like, you should ring a bell every time his name comes up. Almost.
Or do like a quarter in a jar or something,
Yeah,
something for promotion,
Yeah,
but
Well, and for those just listening and not watching, obviously Hawaiian shirt.
Oh, yes, yes,
We
by the
gotta
way.
explain. Yeah,
Yeah,
Hawaiian
and
shirt.
if you're not watching, you should tune into YouTube right now, and you gotta take a look at Chief
Here it
Kazian's
is.
shirt right here. And speaking of Chief, he's got over 33 years in the fire service. Now, he doesn't look like it, but he is in his 50s. He still looks young. He is young, and again, been here for 33 years. He's previously served as a fire chief in Sedona, Arizona, where I met him, and also with the Windsor Severance Fire Rescue in Colorado. He's very, very pivotal in talking about leadership, mentoring, mental health and wellness, and that's where both him and I kind of became kindred souls and spirits, and had some great conversations over the years. And also mentoring, and something pretty interesting, Chief, we were talking about is you're a member of I don't want to say these underground kind of groups, but I mean, how would you classify them? You kind of are in some mentorship groups, or how would you?
yeah. So I would say we call them think tanks. Maybe would be the safe way to say them. They're not clandestine, if you will, but they're kind of a invite only ish. And one of them was pretty much run and established by Chief Brunacini, and there's a group that meets twice a year that I'm part of, and help facilitate part of that. And then the shirt that I'm wearing is from a Colorado group, but it's not limited to just Colorado, and it's kind of the same concept. And so we meet, and we meet twice a year in both of those groups, and have some offline calls in the one here in Colorado. But it's a chance for us to network with our peers in a safe space where you can talk about the challenging things that we're all facing, and in many cases we're at the tip of the spear in some cases, seeing and hearing things, and when we're vulnerable and we have a safe place to talk about things, it's pretty impressive what we can address and deal with, and start to get your hands around before it becomes an article in one of your newspapers, and one of your magazines, or online documents.
Do you think, obviously these are chiefs, correct? Like that are in these groups together. And we talked a little bit numerous times. Do you think the job as a fire chief, A, it's more difficult now, and B, is less understood than it has been in the past?
Yeah, I think that'd be fair to say. They say leadership's lonely at the top, right? That's not a new phrase by any means, so it's not like it's a new concept. But I think today's fire service leaders, chiefs specifically, as your question, depending on how the structure of your organization, your team, your environment that you're in, the region that you're in, it is and can be very lonely and challenging for you. Everyone's counting on you. Everyone's expecting you to have the answers. The reality is, we know that that's not the case. You could think of Chief Pat Kenny's book, "Taking the Cape Off," and we as fire chiefs, it's very hard to take the cape off, and we don't get the permission and able to say, "Hey, I'm taking the cape off now. I'm going to be just Kris." It's chief always, and so you're always on, and the demands are hard. And I think of some of the leaders that I grew up under, amazing individuals, influenced my leadership, some good, some bad. Um, but I just don't think that they had the problems that we're facing today. And I'm sure that was relative to what they faced compared to the people that they, replaced as well along the way. But it's at an exponential curve right now in my mind, and very challenging for folks to be on all the time. The cell phones, right? They're connected to us all the time. We're accessible. We're expected to be there. The community's looking at you. At this post 9/11 fire service, what you're expected of your of your leadership, what government's expected, especially now fast forward to the last 5-6 years, and the trust and distrust in government, things like that. It's a 24/7 job. Absolutely.
Well, and I think too, then there's also this perception like, oh, if I show any weakness or vulnerability, or, it's going to be perceived as weakness, I should say. If like they're going through something and they want to take off the cape for a minute, or even just talk to their members about stuff they're going through, you know, uh, how do they get around that, or come to realize that it's okay to be honest about those things?
Yeah, that's a great, it's a whole topic in of itself, right? Just trying to figure out how to set that table and create that safe space for a chief officer to be able to tell their board, their city manager, "Hey, I'm I'm about to boil over. I need to take some time away," and sometimes that time away isn't what you need. I mean, that's my help, but you may need some more professional help. You may need, um, you know, medications. You may need, like, whatever, but that's perceived as weakness in most of our minds. Like, I don't want to do that. What's wrong with me? I don't need that. If we were honest and we talked to our peers, you'd probably find out how many of them are in therapy, counseling, medicating, hopefully the right way. We'll probably talk about that in a little while, but and truly struggling. And when you meet people, when you see people as people, and you come to their level and you connect one on one, you can elicit a lot of information from them: body language, eye contact, words they use, or the empty spot that's in their, you just look right through them. You need to help those folks, and I've worked really hard to try to help people that I've seen that are struggling, and I've done a ton of that, and I've been, in need of a lot of it myself, and had some folks be there for me and other people not, and it's a tough spot to be in for sure.
Yeah, I think you brought up a good point. I mean, a lot of times we talk about, firefighters and EMTs and the PTSD and the stress and the trauma that we go through, but we don't talk about, the fire chief who is there with them and sometimes is witnessing how it's affecting their team members, right? Their own department. And then they're having to deal with the stresses of maybe administrators not understanding the stress. They want shifts covered. They want answers to why things were, why we responded one particular way or didn't respond a particular way. Um, so we talked about health and wellness, and over the last couple of years, and you and I've been really open about, hey, the older you get, the more challenged it is to stay in the fire service. You know, as far as you personally, uh, how have you approached like that stress, and how have you handled that over the last couple of years? And if you were to look back in the mirror and go, "Damn, you should have done this differently,"
That
what
sounds like
would
a
you
hot
say?
seat question, Aaron. That sounds like a
Oh,
hot seat.
our hot seats are going to be better than that, man. I got them
Uh,
set up for that.
Great question. As so you commented on how young I look, I really appreciate it, and so that's very flattering, Aaron. So as a fire chief at 41 years old, leaving Illinois, I started my career actually in the north suburbs of Chicago, and did 22 years there, and then went on to Sedona, as you said. So coming into a new organization, new state, 41 years old, you could imagine that there's definitely pressure on you to prove yourself, right? There's the fire chief handbook that's out there. You can read it. It's like this thick, and that's not going to do you what you need. It's the on the street, boots on the ground, learning from mistakes and opportunities. And so yeah, head down, trying to do a lot of hard, great work, but that comes at an incredible price. And so I worked through that. And to be honest with you, like many people I know, I won't call you out by name, but you all know, you're all listening. Um, we don't cope with things very well. We've been at the same conferences. We've seen the people. We've done things that we wish we probably could take back, or realize that's really not too healthy of a way to cope. Most of that's done in the way of using alcohol, I think, in the most of our, at least public sides.
Hmm.
But absolutely, knowing what we know today with our memberships, substance abuse other than alcohol is certainly very prevalent. So I don't know why we would think that potentially fire chiefs would be exempt from that. I have not experienced that side of the equation, but certainly have found myself making poor choices in the past. And so what have I done? I put on a whole bunch of weight. I got some gray hair. I do look older than I probably would look if I didn't have all this stuff going on. But start exercising. My wife cooks amazing organic meals, and trying to eat healthy. Trying to avoid those triggers and stress, which for me is like binge eating, like sweets. Like I'm all in, and had a little stress this morning, and I had to go get a donut. Like I just had to. All the workout I did at 5:30 gone. So having that healthy lifestyle is really important. And then the last piece of that is really finding a place where you can and find some self help relative to mental health stuff. We have peer support, and we support it so much for our members. And one of the challenges I've had in the past is, okay, so we got peer support, we got members that are hurting. Understand that. Peer support is confidential. 100% respect that. As a fire chief, if my membership is hurting, the last thing I want to do is be the last person to know. What can I do to help that person? What can I do to make that situation better? Not to punish the person, not like it is all in to help them. And then flip that. When is someone going to be there to be all in for me and help me? And that's where the gap, I think, occurs. And as a chief, going to peer support, is very internally is difficult. We had a company out here, Building Warriors. I don't know if you've heard of Building Warriors, but they're a support group, and they're doing just a fire chief support group once a month. You get on, and you're talking to other fire chiefs, and we've had some pretty healthy conversations, and some people that have been in very critical situations in their stage in their life, that we've been able to work and help through that in those conversations, and give the tools. So I think we're on the cusp of a really great thing. It just, we need to bring the fire chiefs into the circle, and not look at them as superheroes, and they must know everything, because they don't.
Not that long ago, there was a story about a firefighter suicide, and the chief released a very emotional video message. You might
Mhm.
remember this. I feel it was
I do.
maybe 6 months ago. I can't remember, but I just remember how much attention that got, and I thought it was so interesting because it was such an anomaly, right, for a chief to be the one speaking in such an emotional way about this. And I guess you think, like, we should be talking so much more openly Like, this shouldn't be such a huge news story because one chief talked about it one time. We need to be talking about this. When these things happen, if is a suicide, that's going to affect so many members of the department. And obviously there's plenty of other stressors that can happen as well. But I just thought it was so interesting that that was such a big deal, and kudos to that chief, really,
I
for
believe
being vulnerable in that moment.
yeah, I remember that post. I actually sent him an email and just said thank you for speaking out. So I took
Yep.
time to actually even send him something. I can't remember which department it was. I believe it was on the West Coast somewhere, if I'm not mistaken. But very powerful message. And you know what? That, again, back to that fire chief's handbook. There's not a page in there that says here's what you should do. So leading with your heart, you may upset some people, or lead with your heart. You're most of the time going to be okay. And if it turns out the wrong way, you led with your heart, you meant well, people should give you some grace. And we don't have enough grace in the world anywhere. And the firehouse, I don't think they can spell grace. So we're eat our own, and we need to change some of that and realize. I think that we need to be a little bit better. And so many people think that's softening the fire service, and we're making it just too easy on people. I don't see it that way. I think it's reading the room and understanding the players, where their strengths and weaknesses are. And if you want to lead, you want to have all your strengths in the right place. And I think you need to do that. So thanks for bringing that up. That was a blast from the past, but a great thing. Maybe worth sharing that in the link when you guys post this, because
Yeah, absolutely.
that
And
was a good video.
and Chris, what would you say to the chief that's, kind of listening to this going, "Nah, I don't know. I I I don't wanna sharing vulnerable if I show I'm vulnerable or I don't know something, my constituents, my members, that I'm gonna lose their faith, I'm gonna lose confidence in them." I mean, what would you tell that chief?
Yeah, I think that's just such a fallacy. I mean, at the end of the day, if you come to your folks and say, "I don't really know how to do this," and we're going to some uncharted, it's no different than a firefighter's suicide. I mean, I got a friend that's experienced a couple in his organization the last year. Horrible, horrible stuff. And it's like, do you do honors? Do you not do honors? And I don't know what the right answer is. You know what the right answer is based on your organization, and what you need to do to heal that family, that soul, and the organization that's going to go on. And so, showing some vulnerability, to me, is human. And I don't know. I mean, these confidence is certainly something you want to show, but vulnerability you use as a tool in my experience, to say, I don't know the answer. Let's walk alongside me and help me figure this out. Or I don't know the answer, so let's figure it out. But as a chief, when they throw you a problem, we're programmed to fix it, and
Yeah.
we forget that step where we should pause and maybe say, "Is this a fix moment? Maybe we need to just think about this and don't take any action. That might be the best action in some cases." um, and I think your last guest or two ago said, when you're in command, you should command. Sometimes command, I heard that, I'm like, well, sometimes, like a hazmat incident, doing nothing might be the right thing. You're still in command, but doing nothing might be the right thing. And so I kind of equate to that, as well as if I had all the answers, I would have won that $1 billion lottery that just,
Right,
my
right.
tickets are right here. I didn't win
Yeah.
that, so I don't know everything, obviously.
As someone who, has been in the back seat for almost 20 years now, I'm moving more to the front seat. Uh, and I'm also a little bit older. I think, in fire service, I don't want to speak for everybody, but I know that we have some surveys that are saying, hey, I as I want to see more strength in leadership. And again, this almost counteracts it, right? As a leader, well, if they want to see strength in leadership, I shouldn't show them I'm vulnerable. But actually, I agree with what you're saying, Chief. Is no, that shows that you're human, but I can still step up and make a decision when I need to, and also then not make a decision when that's needed. And you have to, learn kind of uh, how your organization feels, right? But the question though comes back to, how as a leader do you learn that? How as a leader do you take a step back, and what other traits help mold that mindset?
Well, I think Aaron, just again, being human, realizing that you're not infallible, you're not, perfect. We all make mistakes. Admitting your mistakes. So, lying is a big deal. So be honest with people. The minute you lose that credibility, that trust, it's so hard to build back. So if people respect you and understand you and appreciate who you are, they'll understand those mistakes, and they'll give you some of that grace, if your culture and organization has built that. And so you need to know that, because in some cases you don't have this much of grace, and they're going to be on you and you're out the door, or whatever. You've lost all credibility. You got to, you just got to do like 10 nice things to make up for one bad thing, or whatever type of thing, right? So I think it's about creating a culture. I think it's about communicating to people. And you mentioned referencing, some articles and data that's coming out and things like that. Like, you can't read an article and say that doesn't apply to me. It may not. In some cases, it may not. One of the folks that I was, a friend of mine, chief. They had a couple suicides. They've done a huge mental health push, and they're a progressive organization to begin with. And talking to the chief, he said, Kris, I don't know what's going on, man, but we have mental health issues, substance abuse. Like, we have issues in our organization. And I was like, man, he's calling me every day. Like, dude, we just got another guy that's going to the center, another guy that's going to the center. We got this happening. I had a suicide. I had, all the stuff that's happening in real time. And he said, I guess what I realized in that is that when we went to look for it, it was always there. We're just looking for it, and now we see it. And that's what the surveys will tell you. They're doing these surveys. They're saying 57% of people are unhappy at work in a recent Gallup poll. 57%. The easiest thing to say is, that's not my organization. They're happy. I'm the chief and I'm doing good stuff and I care about them. Nah, pretty sure you got some people that are in that survey. And so what are you doing about that? And some may be fixable and some may not be fixable, but you better be taking some proactive approaches, and taking the temperature and the pulse of your organization to know where you sit. You know,
What's
um,
the best way to do that?
again, back to trust, communication, um, creating a safe space. Where people can talk. And so if someone comes to you and says, you know, hey, this is morale's really bad at this point in time. If you go off the handle and start, no, it's not, it can't be, then it's the lieutenant's fault, like I talked about earlier.
Yeah.
They're never going to come with you with anything else. So you have to kind of bite your tongue. You need to, okay, well, tell me more about that. I want to know more. Be inquisitive, right? And that whole, don't come to me with problems, come to me with solutions type of thing. Like, that's I think is a fallacy to some degree, and there's actually some articles about that. Um, but have an open approach to someone being comfortable coming to you and saying stuff isn't working right, or, yeah, people are unhappy right now. Um, and 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 then try to process. We always, I think we fall back to, well, that's the business world, we're the fire service, so we're different, it doesn't matter. Again, that's not true. We are the same people. We all wake up in the morning, we all brush our teeth, hopefully we brush our teeth, we all put our pants on the same way. It is people. That is where we're at, and we have to take inventory, take stock in that, and be proactively working vigorously to achieve it. And even then, I still don't think you actually are successful. I think you're still going to have those people you're not going to correct, or not going to change, and are going to be unhappy in the workplace. And you have to figure out what's your level of comfort in that. And
Yeah.
so,
Well, it's interesting because, I was looking at that Gallup poll as well, and I'm sure there are people who are going to look at this and say, "Oh, that's corporate America. That's not the fire service. It's
Right.
different," right? Um, for the record, the Gallup poll does cover a variety of industry organizations, but I know I've been mentioning it a lot lately, but we've got the data from What Firefighters Want, the survey coming out soon, and it aligns with this Gallup poll for sure. I mean, just to tease some of this data, we've got a question about stress levels and how stressed firefighters are. Now, a lot of firefighters are very stressed. That's the bottom line here. But one of the questions was whether or not their stress level has made them consider leaving the fire service. 42% of people who responded to the survey said they are considering leaving the fire service because of their top stressor. That's huge. Like, if you're a chief and you're thinking about like your members, if you look out over your members and you think 40% of them are considering leaving when we're already in a staffing crisis, like that's pretty insane. Does that number surprise you, Chris?
No, it doesn't. Scientifically, it surprises me just because I don't know the actual quantifiable part of that. But pulse check, gut check stuff, no, that makes a ton of sense. That's right in line with what I would guess would be, much higher than anyone would have guessed. That's 5% in my organization because there's two people that just hate the place, and never been
Right.
happy all 15 years they've been here. So they've already written them off. That 42% number is way higher than two people in your organization, at least in most places.
Mhm.
And if it is two in a 42%, then that means almost half your workforce. You only got four people working there. My math is pretty, spot on. So yeah, you got other problems.
Yeah.
And the Gallup poll you're speaking to is like it's called Q12. I think it's been around early 2000s. Got just tens of thousands of data points. And they're asking questions of people like, do you know what's expected of me? So if those firefighters don't know what's expected of them, or we're expecting more of them. They expect when the bell rings, I go on calls, I do nothing else, and we're expecting them to do all these other things, pub ed and inspections and all this stuff, and it's stressing them out. Where were we for setting the table? Or, do I have the tools and equipment to do our job? Well, in some cases, I assume that they do, but maybe they don't. Maybe they don't have a second set of turnout gear, or they don't have a cancer prevention program. They don't do, firefighter physicals and health and wellness stuff. They don't have a gym, those type of stuff. Or, at work, does my opinion count? Like, again, it goes back to culture. And so if you're leading from the top and you're pounding your fist and this is how it's going to be, I'm the boss. I know how it's supposed to be. I'm not going to, like, your time is limited. And the dinosaur, what Bruno Cini say, dinosaurs lay eggs, like it's yeah, we got to stop some of that. And has someone talked to me about my progress in the last 6 months? When's the last time as a supervisor you sat down and actually talked to somebody? Aaron, you say you're riding the back step and you're doing some more time up front. What a perfect time for you as you make that migration to the front to change that. Go, I haven't been talking. I don't know what Madison does and how often you talk to bosses, but sitting down with people, you don't need a once a year evaluation. That's garbage. I mean, that's what we do because that's what it's been said. But the reality is, once a month, we should be sitting down with our people and just, hey, what's going on? Hey, I'd like really did some great work. Hey, I've been noticing you've been late to work a couple times this month, whatever, and just have small conversations over the next 12 months and engage with them. And then you're going to learn that, what? My kid's having trouble. You're going to learn, hey, my wife is, thinking about leaving me. Hey, you know what? I'm really having trouble at work with this supervisor, with you possibly, whatever it may be. You can make those incremental changes not 12 months from now when it's so big or past a certain point. Now I've been drinking every day. I'm off duty. Now I'm in a tailspin and I need to go, get some major help. And we could have fixed that at the beginning. Wouldn't isn't that leadership? So that
Very
Gallup
much
poll
so.
really is important, and just the how easy it is and what people want is what that tells you.
Well, and
Well, and
we'll
if nobody's
include a
coming,
link to that too in the show notes because it's such a good tool. It's such a good reference point to read through these and not only think about it from your own job satisfaction standpoint, but if you are a supervisor yourself, ask yourself, how would my employees answer these questions? Like, it's a great self-assessment tool.
yeah, and
Yeah,
if nobody's coming into your door to give you any feedback on this, I think that's a great indicator of, hey, something's wrong to start. I know chiefs don't like. I know my chiefs. I ask a lot of questions, but um, that means I'm still engaged, right? And when they don't come into your door or they're not telling you these things, I think these polls are telling you they feel them. They're just in this case, it's already get to a point where it's pretty bad. And chief, the theme that we've been talking about so far is first as a chief, you got to look in the mirror and make sure you understand your own health, your own shortcomings in some cases, and reach out and get mentors. And then you have to do the same thing for your organization too, right? Like I mean, you're basically mirroring what you do for self-care with your organization.
Yeah, kind of dual tracked, right? So that's a double duty. And you know what? We sign up for some of that stuff. So I think part of it is, like I understand, like that's what I get paid to do, and have to appreciate that. I think the challenge I hear a lot of leaders come with, like, I don't have any time in the day. My door, people keep coming in my door. And I used to have I'm a list guy. I got lists all over my office here. Like, I like to check it off, right? And so I used to have these long lists, 10, 12 things I'm going to get done today. I'm type A. I'm going to get all this stuff done. I'm a hard charger. And then I started realizing I didn't get all my things done. That made me unhappy. It made me depressed. I had this long list and a new list for tomorrow, and it kept growing. So I started saying, hey, if I get one thing done a day on my list, I'm happy. More importantly, people are coming to my door. And to your comment, right? If a leader's going, no one comes to my door, I must be really good. That's a red flag that maybe you're not approachable. Maybe you do have some issues that need to be addressed, and you better go actively seek out folks and connect with them, because they're not coming to you because they don't feel comfortable. And that should be a really, really strong message to you as a leader, for sure. And take that. We're talking about mental health. I want to sidebar this. I'll throw you guys a curve because that's what Aaron usually does, Janelle. But Chief
Beat me to it.
Brunacini's granddaughter, Alana Brunacini, has created a document that she has that talks about critical behaviors for first line supervisors. And it aligns with some of these behaviors that a first line supervisor should be doing to lead their folks. It also gives some opportunities for those first line supervisors to get some awareness as they see signs and symptoms to do something. The action sits there. That's why they're a supervisor. They're the first level supervisor. They're seeing things at a much greater level. And so it's a pretty cool document. I'll see if I'm able to share it. If I am, I will send it to you guys. But it's a 4-pager that really just, talks about, hey, if you're seeing hostility or negativity in the workforce or disengagement, then the observations of what that looks like for someone that may not know. A moderate example and an extreme example of what that could look like. As a supervisor, you read that and you go, oh, action, and so often you're about to go up in the front seat. How much training have you really had? And you said you've been on the job a while, so you're a little more senior, maybe seen some things. But do we really give you the tools in the toolbox to say, here, Aaron, now you are a lieutenant. Here's the tools you need. And we're going to do some checkups with you and check-ins. And we don't. We send you out to a station and we hope we never see you again. That's what we do. That's not the way we do it. We should do it.
Right, right. Well, and I'm old too. I got in the fire service old, so I was in the business side, for many years, and I think I, just personally learned some lessons. And I like with my crews, I try to be as 100%, honest as I can, and say, look, I'm new to this position, and I'm going to rely on you to help me, but what can I do to help you too, right? And you and I have had that conversation. That's that's just being people. Um, but there's also people that are listening to this going, well, I wish my supervisor would do that, or I wish something would happen, go this way. What would you tell those people? What would you say to them? What are some steps they could take to, uh, to still foster relationships or foster an environment that's more healthy and positive?
Quit wishing. Take action. There's so many of us that just sit there and say, I wish my boss was like you. I wish this was like, I wish my boss would do that. I wish this. No. Help. I was with a deputy chief the other day, on Monday last week, or maybe this week, I guess it was, and talking about some challenges, opportunities, and I'm like, go and lead your boss. If there's a challenge out there, not nothing major, but if there's an opportunity, like that's what a deputy chief should be doing. Hey, boss, I need this. Boss, did you know we're doing that? Did you hear about this? Like, you need to be the eyes and the ears, just like the first line supervisor, the battalion chief, and so on up the chain. And so we sit back at a firehouse table and just, I wish it was like that. Or I got a friend of mine that works at this department. It's so much better. Like, no, make this place better, because those are the people at the table that are going to be the leadership in the next 5 to 7 years. And just talking about it ain't enough. So take action, do something about it. Quit wishing.
Very well said. That sounds like Dr. Candace Ashby. She was on too. She said, I may have issues with those above me, but I can control my environment today. I can control, the way I respond, and I can set an example for the people that are below me or next to me, right? And that goes back to your health and wellness thing. Maybe the culture's not where we want it to be, but that doesn't mean you can't look in the mirror, start eating better, start getting in shape. How much have you lost, by the way?
Well, I lost about 30 pounds, and I went on a couple of vacations here in the last couple of months and put another 10 back on. So I'm still doing well, but at one point I was at a lean mean fighting weight of a buck 65 or so, and I'm hitting about 172 this morning. So, but how better do you feel?
Yeah, right.
I talked to my aunt yesterday, and we were on a Zoom call for a funeral for a relative in Florida. And anyway, she called back and says, "You look great," And I'm like, great. I got a lot of stuff going on in my life right now. I don't feel so great on the inside, but I'm glad this part looks great.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah,
so that's again a part of a fallacy. Like you might look at that and go, he's got it all together. Look, he looks good. He lost some weight. But inside you're crumbling. You need to have a safety valve, someone that you can call and say, Aaron, I'm really struggling. I need some help. And I've been that person for a lot of people, and it was very difficult for me to use that lifeline to other people, to admit that, hey, I think I need some help. And I
yeah,
was at a conference last October, and we talked a lot about mental health, and some people in the room that have actually attempted suicide, and back to I think one of the surveys that was said, or maybe it was an old podcast listen, but like 42% of people have said that they've attempted suicide or something like that. No, 16. I think it was 16% maybe. Anyway, um, you know, um, I got done in one of the think tank group I was in, and I knew I could be held accountable. I said, I have a problem. I need help. I don't think I'm the same parent that I was for my first child as I am for my last child, and that's probably normal to some extent. That things change, but I don't know that my last one's getting the best version of me. And I think a lot of it has to do with my job as a chief. You know, I'm not blaming it all on that. I'm just being honest. I feel like I've given so much to my places of work and communities that when I came home, I got nothing left in the tank. And my older kids got me when I was on shift, and I was a firefighter, maybe a lieutenant, or a shift commander. And I came home with energy. I came home with stuff. We did things. We whatever. And so, that's a big price to pay for a title. And it's not, if I could do it all over again. And I don't know. Back to that question I think we had at the pre-show. I don't know what if I do it all over again. I don't know. I love it. I absolutely love it. But I look at my daughter who's about to turn 18 and just think she didn't get the same role that the 36-year-old got.
yeah, yeah.
Whatever she is, I don't know, 35 this year, I forget, whatever.
Yeah, she's successful, by the way, too. Yes, I met your daughters. They're
Yeah, a
great.
couple of them. I don't know which one you met. I mean,
Yeah, they're spitting images, which is great. But
yeah,
you know what? Like, you br- you I the this the fire service does takes it does kind of break you down a little bit, right? Every single year you're in, it can break us down, and that's why I appreciate your vulnerability. How are you doing now? I mean, what did you do then, if you don't mind me asking?
yeah. So I had that moment where it was the last day of the last hour, last minute. I was the last person to speak. We kind of a roundtable approach, and I just said, I'm messed up. I'm blank inside, and all the things you said and you said and you said are where I'm feeling, and I can't do this anymore. And so I did some self help. I got some help through our peer support team, an amazing group, First Responders Trauma Council, I believe is their title. They changed their name a few times, but their leadership helped me immensely with just some realization. Did some EMDR. I did some hypnosis. I think the hypnosis was the thing that worked best for me. Um, Again, I was already eating healthy. My wife cooks, so that part was kind of taken care of. By renewed my workout routine, which kind of got laxed, and that got me back to focus. And I quit drinking. I just said I'm not going to drink anymore. I don't think it was a problem, like in a daily status, if you will. But I just said, you know what? Nothing good can be coming out of this. We know, just all the stuff we know, and so I'm going to stop. And there's certainly plenty of examples where I wasn't at my finest, as many of us probably haven't been at one point or two in our lifetimes. So I just electively pretty much just said, I'm not going to drink anymore. And I haven't drank in 8 months. I feel great. In the elephant in the room for me is I'm not at the fire department I was in Northern Colorado anymore. And, it's been a really challenging time in my life to find myself without a job for the first time in 40 some. I started working at 12 years old, always had a job or two. And so to be, 3, 4, 5 months into it, 6 months into it without a job, um, I'm going out of my skin, trying to get back in the game. And whether it's in the fire, that's the biggest question I have right now. Is the fire service where I want to go based upon what I know? Or do I want to go into something more corporate or something else that's, maybe on the sideline, but not in this world? My passion is with people, and it's with leading them and helping them. So right now, my goal and focus is to get back in the fire service. But I'm the best version of myself than I've ever been. Um, and continuing some treatment and help or whatever. And talk to some folks who are like, yeah, every 10 years in our business, we should get a tune up, just like your car needs it. You need to get checked out and
Yeah.
just walk through. And the interesting thing is like many of us will say, I don't really have that many big things that happened in my career. I've, suburban firefighter, whatever, been a chief for 11, 12 years now. I can name off all of the instances, dates, time, like everything. And they're like, yeah, that's probably a sign like you got some baggage in the trunk there. And so we all do.
We all do. Yeah, I believe I like your comment. I think it should be mandatory every year, at least, if not every 3, where you're seeing a counselor. And the conversations. I mean, you and I had this, like, right? Like your significant others and your family members, they see it, right? And we're in it, and a lot of times we don't see it as much. And I think this goes back to just you're more self aware than I've ever seen you, which is why I was like, hey, I got to get you on. This is great. This is a great conversation because when we can lose that, like, holy cow, I need help, or even for fitness, okay, my BMI is high, muscle weighs more than fat. BS. No, you're getting fat, right? Like you're gaining weight. Let's just be honest. Look in the mirror, or you're the guy who, you're holding your crew back a little bit. The moment, right, you become more self-aware, is that like, how did that feel? Is that like, holy cow, that's clarity, right?
Yeah. Well, it was tears and weak, fragile moment in the moment in that meeting where I just confessed and said I need to be held accountable. My wife's been watching this spiral down, or you need to get some help, need some marriage counseling, all those things that we've done and should do, and all that type of stuff. Um, but it didn't sink in until it had to be on my terms, if you will. Maybe that's just
Yeah.
the blockheadedness of me or fire chiefs or firefighters in general. Um, and when it came to my turn, I'm glad that it wasn't in a moment where it was out of desperation or whatever. It was on my terms, and so it made it a lot easier for me. The feeling, the relief of going to talk to somebody and getting some help. Um, I did some vibroacoustic therapy, which was fantastic. I felt that was a huge help, and I don't know what that exactly does, but it does something to your body. And I don't really care what they did to me. I just know that I feel better, and that's the key. Am I fixed? Am I right? Will I ever be? No, I probably never ever. But the reality is, I understand now when our people we're sending somebody somewhere, that we know what they're going to go through. When we send somebody to a intensive inpatient therapy for 30 days, didn't do that, but can understand and appreciate what that is like, and the importance of that. So it's critical for us to walk the walk and talk the talk. And I feel, like I said, 100% better. 8 months later on just my person, a lot of things. And then I had a thing in the middle, which I can't imagine having dealt with what I'm dealing with now as far as employment and some particular issues with that, if I wasn't in the place I was in. So I'm very blessed. Things happen for reasons. So whatever happened in October set me up for my late February situation that I didn't know was coming down the road. and I sit here today and at least can have my head hung high and know that I'm doing my stuff, and
Yeah.
uh, and the rest will fall into place.
Well, and that's why I was like, "Yeah, we gotta get him on and just have a candid conversation about this," because I think this is the reality of what most of us are feeling, and, and I think, the data that we have with our survey coming out, like Janelle, right, I think you had mentioned something about, like, 67% of our respondents were saying they were stressed to, a
Uh,
point.
I think this the data point you're referencing is 67% respondents said that their stress level is negatively impacting other aspects of their health, like ability to sleep, exercise, things of that nature.
Yeah, relationships.
Mhm.
Um, and so Chief, I compliment you for just saying, "Hey, you know what? I'm gonna go see help before it affects all these things." And it probably was starting to, like your wife was saying, and your kids were saying. And so many times we've seen that in the fire service where somebody doesn't. And yeah, is that a softer fire service? I think it's a more self-aware fire service.
I agree.
And so I applaud you for talking about it. Number one, being here, and number two, just taking action to just work on yourself and not be afraid to do that. Because ultimately, right, it comes down to this: you're all fired up, ready to help more people because you've helped yourself.
100%, 100% recharged, ready to go, and looking. So if you're out there, no.
Yeah,
But
right.
and I'm heading to Florida in the morning on a plane, right? And what's the thing they're going to say to anyone with little children? Make sure you put your mask on first before you help them. I mean, it's the same analogy, right? And we get that. We're like, okay, and I would bet that most people take care of their kids before they take care of themselves, but they tell us that anyway. And if we really are going to live that, so important to truly do that. And so, yeah, I'm probably a decade or longer late to the game as far as taking care of myself. But you know what? I'm there now, and that's the most important piece. So it's not a matter. Well, it's too late now. No, it's not too late for anybody, and it's not too late to talk about it. It's okay if you say, hey, you know what? We up here in northern Colorado are working with a company called Frontline Medical, and so very comparable to LifeScan and the work that they're doing. I mean, comprehensive physicals. They're doing the mental health screening. They're checking the sleep status. They're looking at anxiety, depression. And again, why would we think that the fire service is any different when we look at the anxiety and depression in the society as a whole? Why do we think the fire service would be any different? We have our heads in the sand, thinking that that's not existent. We think that the substance abuse relative to pain medications is only for other people. Like, no, actually, probably more so in our business. And
Yes.
so, it's critical that we're aware of our people. And so, when one of them has had a surgery or they're having issues with this or that, like being present in their life and making sure, hey, how you doing, man? Are you okay? Like, how's the pain going? I'm off the pain pills, whatever. Well, it could be lying to you, or and more often than not, we're seeing that they're taking more pills and medicines and things like that are impacting their ability to be at work. We used to do a recruit dinner. So as our new recruits are coming on, about to go to academy, we have a barbecue or we cater in some food. We invite their families, moms and dads. In many cases, are 21, 22-year-old men and women that don't have spouses yet. So we bring their moms and dads in because they're the ones that are going to be seeing this stuff, and we give them the
Yeah.
signs and symptoms of what the mental health is. We don't try to scare them, but we try to give them the signals, because the last thing we want to do is have someone not know where to turn. We give them the card. Here's peer support. Call us. And we'd rather have that phone call. And if at the end of the day, if at the worst case scenario, at the end of the day, it ends somebody's career because of something that is happening that's not, we can't get around, that is still far better and going to be a very small percentage of time than somebody doing something that's going to hurt them or someone else long term in their career. I listened to you use the analogy about on a fire ground, if you only threw the ladder halfway up the window, we'd be all over that person, right? This is what we're talking about. The ladders aren't reaching the window. We're not making any egress. We're not having a second way out. We're not having an escape plan. We talk about that. We train on that every day. Our guys threw ladders here 7 a.m. in the morning. Every day they're throwing ladders. They're pulling hose. 99% of our job was not that, but we
Yeah.
needed to be good when it needed to be good. So we need to do the same. We already have the framework. We just need to shift it over to taking care of ourselves and not looking at that as a weakness, but as a part of our job and our expectation
Yeah, and a necessity for our job.
and a
Yeah,
necessity,
and a
right?
necessity. Yeah,
Yep.
and I just, thank you for being here, by the way, because, so you summarize just basically a lot. First of all, take a look at yourself and then take action. And the more and the better you do that, the better you will be able to serve those around you, including family. And the same goes for your organization that you lead, right? Like, take a look around, and if people aren't telling you how things are going, you got to ask, because there are some hidden issues, and I think surveys are showing that. And so if you think it's not your organization, you got another thing coming, and then take action to be proactive on those things. And I think that summarizes really what we need to do personally, and as a fire service. So thank you for that. Thank you for your honesty and your openness to share. But you're not done yet, and
No,
we're not done yet, because now the one thing you were stressing out about all night long probably are hot seat questions. Again, for those that are listening, we just throw our guests in some questions that are kind of more quick hitter. We don't really know where they're coming from. Janelle's mom is really good at coming up with some of these, as is mine, and we get some from some of our listeners. So you ready for that, Chief?
sure.
Janelle's got some prepared for you to start.
All right. All right. I want you to tell us about your favorite fireground drill, but I'd like you to do so in your auctioneer speed.
Yeah, so we got some time together at the National Fallen Firefighters Foundation, and it was a tough start, as you guys noticed. But once we got going there, I can really start going. So hey, and I can get a little going, but I don't know if I can do that here right now today. I'm too nervous. Um, Drill. You know, gosh, I've been in the office so long. It's been that'd be budget time. My favorite fireground drill would be preparing the budget and getting ready in fire chief terms. From a firefighter standpoint, any of the NFPA drills, just timing where we're able to compare ourselves and benchmark ourselves as a team compared to our other members, stuff like that. Those are some of my favorite drills. Just to have quantifiable stuff. Search drills. Those are blacked out stuff. Obviously, live fire training. All those are great stuff. But knowing how we are, where we've been as a team, I think is an important aspect to the training, and knowing how and where we measure up, and are we meeting expectations. And those NFPA drills are certainly a good way to do that.
We're going to use post production and just speed that up. We'll do it at auctioneer speed,
We'll
right?
double
In
we'll
post.
double that whole speed. And for those that
I got 100, I got 100, I got 200, I got 200, I got 200, I got 3, I got 3, I got 3, I got 3 over there, I got 400, I got 4, Janelle, I got 400, I got raise your hand so I can call on you, okay? I got 400 right there, 400. I see 5, I got 5 from you, Aaron, I got 5 from Aaron, good job. We're going to sell it right now, sold to Aaron for $500.
sold to the next question is sold to me. For those that are listening, Kris has been the auctioneer for a lot of NFFF auctions and charity events. So that's where that came from. And he does a great job. He did take a little bit of warming up, but after he got going, it was perfect. Kind of like the hot seat
Let's
questions.
be careful.
Right?
The room was incredibly cold. I was
It,
warmed up there.
Yeah, let's definitely not blame Kris
Yeah,
here. It was a who wants to be the first to start throwing money around,
yeah.
it was
right?
a tough start, but we got there.
It
We
was a
got
tough
there.
crowd. I'll give you that for
Yeah.
sure. Um, we've met at a couple conferences, and we've experienced an epic sushi night
Oh,
together
yes.
where we were
Laughlin.
in Laughlin, and a group of us went to this sushi place that was recommended, and they just kept coming out with all these wonderful entrees. I think the bill was like $80 for like 7 of us. It was crazy. Um, but the conversation really for you and I, like I remember that moment. I remember us bonding. I remember us talking about uh, kind of a lot of things with health and wellness and where the fire service was going. So my question resorts back to that. You've gone to a lot of conferences. You've gone to speak a lot, and you do a lot of these things with mentoring. What's one of the greatest experiences you've ever had at a conference or a show, or just one of those particular kind of events?
I guess as a speaker here in Colorado, we've had a couple, smaller venues. I've not done a lot of large group stuff. Certainly interested and available to talk about or come out and or another shameless plug. It's when you speak to the group and then those people come up to you afterwards and they've got questions, or they see you at the next conference, or they send you an email and they're like, hey, I got a question about that, or hey, I'm trying to figure this out. And so when you connect at that level of people, when you can speak all day long and say a lot of words, but when you get that feedback that someone heard you and it was impactful to them and they felt your passion. So to your question, it took me a second to get there, but your question specifically, funny you asked this. I was teaching a class here at Colorado Special District Association is a group here, and I get up and speak, and there's three ladies giggling in the front row. And finally, I'm calling on them, just like, but they kept giggling. And I'm like, what is so funny? And she says, my mom lives in Windsor and she loves you. During COVID, I started to write a weekly newsletter or so, trying to lead through COVID to our community on Nextdoor. Hugely scary, very dangerous given the vibes of Nextdoor. And it went overwhelmingly well. People would find me in the grocery store, like, when's your next article coming out? I can't wait to read it. And I was like, okay. So this giggling in the front. So finally, when the class is over and they, I'm like, okay, well, that's cool. Your mom thinks I'm the best and thinks I'm so cute or whatever, they said. She's like, can we take a selfie with you so we can send it to my mom and share it? And it was just the funniest thing ever. And so every time I'm at the conference, I think of that time and sending a selfie to her mom and making her day brighter that her daughter got to get a selfie with Kris Kazian, which probably is not really worth very much, but to her, I guess it was.
That's awesome. All right, let's flip to the other side of let's go worst experience, but not at a show in general, but worst, like 60-second version of your worst travel experience.
Oh man. To a conference or just
No,
traveling?
no, just anything. It could be family vacation,
Well,
traveling
so let's
alone.
travel. We were in Florida, where we're going now, actually tomorrow, to fly out, and we were ready to go home. They canceled the flight, and my wife's like, "We are going home." I'm like, "You know how much a flight is for three of us to go home right now?" It's like, "I don't care." So we spent like $2,000 or something like that on the flight home when we could have just stayed in a hotel for probably $200 and flew out in the morning. And so the stress of me, I'm a money guy, so I was like, ah. But we got my wife home, so I therefore am a hero in her eyes, at least in that moment. And that's always haunted me as they cancel flights or move a lot of flights around lately. It's like, oh,
Yeah. Yeah.
It was well worth the investment for the stress. You got to look at the stress versus the monetary versus stress investment. I think you
yeah,
were
nailed it.
worked out on that one, right?
Yeah, I was driving, trying to go on the Delta website to sign up to buy flights and whatever else. I'm like, this is not safe, but we're going to get to the airport and we're going to have an airplane waiting for us, honey. Don't worry.
Yep, we're going home. Don't
We're
worry
going
about
home.
it. Well, one final one, and this is kind of a hot seat. This is a personal one, Chief. How are you personally working to get better?
Um, I think kind of like your the name of your show, right? Better every shift. I think that's and it's amazing, great name. I'm sure Janelle came up with it, so that's great.
Pretty
Um,
much, yeah.
it's that 1% concept, right? So if every day you can be just a little bit better, a little bit happier, a little bit nicer to people, a little bit more present, a little more, just try to do a little bit. When you look at the big picture, it's so enormous and so difficult for us to get our heads around. And I think that if we can take that time to just each day focus on making it a little bit better for you, for somebody else, being present, and I think that's what motivates me, is knowing that I made a difference to someone today. What the hell I held the door open when I was getting my donut this morning, and someone's like, "Thanks," like it would have made their day. Like I was like, "I just held the door for you." It wasn't, but they probably won't forget that today, and that type of stuff. So just being present, being personable, and just trying to put more of that back in the world. We're so tied to our phones and walking and texting and looking at stuff, and we don't look around. We don't lift our heads up and see where we're at. So I try to be present. I'm not good at it all the time, but I'm getting better, especially with not having a job right now. It makes it easy to be present. And then I try to be a better golfer. At the end of the day, I'm trying to hit that little ball more less times each time I go golfing, and makes me smile a little bit when I have a good game on the golf course. So
So you're working on patience then. That's another thing, correct?
oh,
If you
patience.
mentioned golf,
Yes, yeah, patience and just appreciation for finesse. Is this a 7 iron or a 6 iron? And do I have to hit it really hard or not too hard? And yeah, so finessing that into the sweet spot, if you will, and playing and just enjoying life. You know, life is too short. We get so bogged down in everything in our lives, and everything seems like it's the end of the world. And as I said, stressful morning this morning. My wife and I had a great conversation. It was not easy conversation. At the end of the day, she said, I'm thankful for so much stuff. So many people have it so much worse than we do. And it's so true. So true. And even the people that have it worse than the people I'm thinking of probably have it better than somebody else. And so on and so on. And so we just need to appreciate where we are, be present in ourselves, and take a moment to just self-reflect and just try to be a better person when and where you can.
very well said. Again, we thank you for being on, Chief, and you know, your summary of, you know, being patient, being present, being grateful. I think a lot of us can improve our lives, can improve our shifts if we just do those simple things. So thanks for being so honest. Thanks for the insight. For those of you that are listening to us, remember that you can watch us on YouTube. You can also email us at bettereveryshift@firerescue1.com if you have hot seat questions for us, or if you want to comment on anything that we hit on our shows. Please rate and review the show. And again, you can find us on YouTube to watch and see uh, Chris's great shirt. But most of right, thank you, Chief Brunacini, for the motivation for that. Um,
Inspired.
yeah, inspired, right. And most importantly, everyone, make sure that you learn something, do something, and share something to make you and those around you better every shift. Thanks for listening.